Welcome to the Jesus Over Everything podcast, connecting the power of God's Word to everyday life.
Welcome to the Jesus Over Everything podcast. This is David Dorn Jr. here with Natan Abiyan and Ronnie Goebel.
Hello.
Hi.
We are happy to be back with you. And if everything goes according to plan, this is the second season of Jesus Over Everything. And it's a podcast intended to equip you, our local church members, by having conversations that bring the Word of God into contact with the normal stuff of Christian discipleship. And one of the things we wanted to talk about right away at the beginning of this year is the role of Christian leaders in the church, particularly those we call pastors most often. And we'll talk a little bit about those titles in a minute. Before I get into who on earth are the pastors and how, not just like where are they located and what do they look like, but what should we look for in pastors?
They come in very different sizes.
Shapes and sizes. Yep. Hairstyles.
Even colors. It's great. So before I say that, I would say we're going to do something new this season, which is we are inviting questions. And every couple episodes, maybe 5 episodes, we will have like a mailbag type episode where we would hear from our church and churches and take time to deal with questions that are on your mind and heart. So if you are listening to this and you have a question, please reach out to me at daviddoran@theresurrection.church and send me a question for the podcast. We would love to serve you. That's what this is about. All right.
Jen,
Now,
share your question. She has listened to every episode. She
Jen
told me.
Marday has.
If you have a question,
Come on,
shout
Jen.
out.
Tim Baker's probably listening to every episode. Nicole Cummings. I mean, there's a ton of shout outs. We'll do shout outs on the mailbag day.
There you go.
Birthdays, maybe even?
Birthdays. Today is Levi Doran's birthday as we record, and Leah Abiyan's birthday as we record. They were born on the same day, but we're losing our listeners. So
right.
Here's the question. Who's y'all's pastor?
Who's your pastor?
How do you know what a pastor is supposed to look like? That's what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
Now, before we discuss that, it might actually be valuable to figure out, what does it mean if somebody said, well, no, I'm not looking for the pastor. I'm looking for elder,
The bishop,
Bishop Doran.
the overseer,
the overseer.
the apostle,
Reverend.
I'm looking. So
What are
there's a
all
lot of titles, right? So what titles did you ever go to a church where somebody was called something other than pastor?
No, I've heard him floating around in the world, but it was always pastor in the places that I was.
Yeah.
I remember in college starting to hear the word elder and being kind of wondering what that was about.
Yep. And Natan, what about you?
I was a member of a Presbyterian church for 5 years. So
Whack. I'm just kidding.
there were other guys in there.
Yeah. Wait, what do you mean? What kind of titles?
It's presbyter, the title in English, or what do you use?
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah. No. There was just elders.
Right. So elder. Well, in Spanish we would say el presbítero, just like the group of people.
Yeah.
So a group of pastors or a group of elders above the pastors of your church.
Oh, that's the presbytery.
Right.
Yeah, in English, yeah.
Presbytery.
In American.
Yeah. So we had one of those was in our church.
Yeah.
And then we would every now and then receive some men
Right.
that were not our pastors, but were part of that group.
All right.
And they got to make some decisions.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. And then have you guys ever interacted? I've interacted with someone called a bishop.
Yeah.
An archbishop. People have probably heard that in our area. That's very Catholic roots. What else? Are there other titles?
I think reverend is one that I'm like, I don't know what the Greek word for reverend is. I don't know that there is one.
Yeah,
and I don't know
Reverend's
the
pretty
history
common,
of where
right?
that came from.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
minister.
Yeah. Minister.
The minister, yes.
Yeah, the minister.
Yep.
All right, so we're actually going to, in the future, I'm sure, talk about some of the Baptist convictions. And when we mean that, we don't mean just this is the way Baptists do it, but the theological convictions about the life of the local church and the offices in the local church. But today, we're not going to discuss the roles and leaders outside of a single local congregation. That Presbyterian discussion and some of these things, there are branches of the Bible-believing church that, and obviously there's a whole structure within Catholicism that has all these different offices and leaders above the local congregation.
Yep.
But for Rooted in Resurrection, that's not the kind of church you're a part of. And we're going
Right.
to talk about the nature of church leaders in your local church.
So that's what I'd say. In our churches,
Yeah.
pastors, that's as high as it gets. There's no one above the pastor and the congregation making decisions.
Right.
We don't go outside to some organization or group or anything to
But what about the Southern Baptist Convention?
tell us. What about it?
So like a denomination doesn't make decisions for us?
Tell me about it. I've been a member of one for 2 years, 3 years.
There you go. No. I mean, I would just say if anybody in our church goes, well, wait, and that's actually a common thing when someone says you're a part of a denomination. What about your church's, ownership of its own stuff,
Right.
role in determining its own destiny, selecting its own leaders?
Yeah. Does your pastor have to report to somebody outside of the church for decisions?
Good question.
Yeah, no ownership outside of us. And actually, by the way, that's what I meant when I said Baptist to our church members listening.
Yep.
The Southern Baptist Convention is an association, and Ronnie's not Southern Baptist.
Ronnie's Acts 29.
Yeah. So is
Network.
Acts 29? Yeah, is Acts 29 like this kind of thing where they tell you what to do? No.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do not.
No.
It's a partnership of churches.
Right.
It's a partnership of pastors, but
Right.
it's not a authority structure
Right.
over our church or
So for
over
us,
the pastors.
We have the congregation.
Yep.
We have deacons. We have pastors. And
Right.
that's it.
But wait, and then what if somebody listening goes, well, wait, I thought we had pastors and elders. Do you have you currently only have one pastor at Rooted, right?
We have one pastor, and then we have somebody on staff named Alfonso, who's a pastoral resident.
Shout out Alfonso.
Right.
We love
There
you.
you go.
Yep. And so Alfonso, he does a lot of pastoral work. He
Yeah.
preaches on Sundays occasionally. He does work in discipleship. He helps make decisions. He cares for people. And his role is a role where he's doing the work that pastors do as a way to train for becoming officially a pastor for our
Right.
church.
Right. And that's actually, I love that you guys are doing that because maybe some people with a church exposure in their history, they have this category of like, oh, the youth pastor. And what they actually mean is somebody who works on the youth staff, not the office described in the Bible as the leader of the church.
Right.
And you've done a great job of saying, well, yeah, Alfonso's going to take up ministry type responsibilities. And actually, we're looking into adding a pastoral resident and things like that, but not muddy it with, okay, right now he's in an office the New Testament prescribes. Hopefully he will be, God willing, like down the road, he's training towards that.
So here, connected to that, have
Yeah.
you guys ever bumped? This isn't a different name for pastor, but sometimes, and just in the world, you'll know somebody who used to be a pastor, maybe, or is just like a Christian leader that you look up to.
Yes.
That is not actually a pastor of a church, and you'll call that person pastor.
Pastor, yes.
Or this person once was a pastor, and then it's almost like you talk to them and you still address them as pastor.
Right.
Even
Right.
though they're not. Why is that person not a pastor?
I strongly disagree against that type of situation.
Why?
I
Yeah,
very
why?
much don't like it.
Right.
Because so you're a pastor of what happened in that situation normally is you're a pastor of a local church for 20 years, right? 20, 30 years, whatever. And then you quit or you retire, right? So you're not the pastor of the local church anymore,
Yeah.
right? And people continue to call you pastor.
Right.
Like, but you're not a pastor of anything anymore, right? And what can happen sometimes is just because of the title, people will listen to him. And I agree, like the person might be very mature, very wise, if he was a good pastor, that for 20, 30 years that didn't disqualify himself or anything, that's fantastic. That is great. But how can you continue to have a title that is completely tied to the local church when you are not a leader in the local church?
It is.
Right?
It's some. I don't like it either. I do feel a tension to try and be. Maybe I just. So we think about the president, right? The president of the United States. People still refer to President Obama
Yeah, when he's not in the office.
when he's not in the office, and I think that graciously there's some of that going on. Where it's, but it does muddy the water in a way that I feel more protective. Nobody's under the impression that they have to listen to President Obama.
Right.
Right.
Whereas spiritual authority doesn't kind of end with a term. And so when somebody keeps the office title when they're not taking up the duties in the office in a local church, I think it's unhelpful.
Right.
Yeah, and I was just driving towards
But I do
like
try
that.
to be, yeah.
That helps us understand what is a pastor. A
Yeah,
pastor
yeah.
is someone who is specifically in a role with a specific group of people.
With
a local church.
Now
Yep.
that role that they're in is qualified by characteristics that we're going to talk about
Right.
that you could still have even if you're not a pastor of
Yes.
a church anymore.
Yep.
And it could be great for people to look up to you. But even as we talk about what is a pastor, what are the qualifications of a pastor, that's one of the key things is you're actually somebody that a specific group of people has called and is looking to
Yep.
as one of their spiritual leaders.
It's an office with duties.
Yes.
And I think we need to get back to that more than like it's this guy, even if he's between roles, he's just, he's still qualified in terms of his character. So he might as well just be a pastor at large.
Right.
It's like, well, no, he's not. He was a pastor. God willing, he'll get to be a pastor again.
Yep.
But he's not and then that could be similar to the office. So the office with duties, fascinatingly enough, the titles the scripture gives
Yep.
are not, when somebody says, well, there's pastors and there's elders, there's bishops. A simple passage I'd love to just set the table and remove one distraction before we talk about the qualifications is this. Pastor, bishop, overseer, elder, shepherd, right? Actually, shepherd and pastor, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are terms that are being used synonymously, complementarily to fill out the picture of the same office.
Yep.
So when Paul in Acts chapter 20, if people were listening and they took their Bible and opened it, they would go and see Paul brought the elders from Ephesus, the leaders of that church.
Yep.
And those are to back up, people that were the apostles when they planted churches helped establish leaders in these local churches.
Right.
So he calls those men and he gathers them for a meeting. So verse 17 says, Paul sent to Ephesus for the elders of the church. Well, then as he's talking to these men, he says, keep watch, verse 28, over yourselves and all the flock, which the Holy Spirit has made you overseers. Be shepherds of the church of God, which he bought with his own blood. Okay? So right there, there's the same group of people in the same exact context being called about a specific church, elder, shepherd, overseer.
And
right?
connects it to the church. Yeah.
And it connects it to the Ephesian church. It's the same guys, not different groups of people.
Right.
And it can be confusing for our church because generally, even at Resurrection Church, we do have pastors on staff and non-staff pastors.
Right.
And if somebody were to make the mistake, generally they would call me a pastor, Natan a pastor, because we're on staff, and call Brian Maloney or Hal Selstead an elder because they're not on staff.
Right.
And I don't think that's a helpful distinction. We've tried to say pastor and non-staff pastor because of it's not the office, it's the compensation and career.
Yeah, or maybe even the role of that pastor on the team in the church.
Role on a team, not office. Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
Because you'd have some staff pastors that's like, hey, the church has decided that these men have the gifts and the capacity to serve the church through preaching, through leading, and all these ways.
Right.
Let's actually pay them so that they can do this full time with their hours and with their energy.
Right. You want to read 1 Peter 5 to show that as well?
So one more passage to show that pastors, shepherds, elders, and bishops are different descriptions of the same role. So it's, these words, bishop, overseer, that's the same, pastor, elder, describe the different activities, the different responsibilities of the same person. That's why that's why we have many words. The reason we have many words is to point to different responsibilities and activities, but they point to the same office, not different office. So 1 Peter 5 verse 1, to the elders among you, so he's talking to elders, right? I appeal as a fellow elder and a witness of Christ's suffering, who also will share in the glory to be revealed. Be shepherds, so be pastors. So hey, elders, be pastors of God's flock that is under your care, watching over them. And that's the word for overseer.
Yeah,
which
my
means,
CSB translation says overseeing.
Overseeing, which is the bishop, right?
Yep.
The episcopos,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly. I don't know. not because you must, but because you are willing. Anyway,
Yeah.
so he's basically here. He says the elders are the pastors, and the pastors are the overseers.
Yeah. So
Right.
if you got
Go ahead. Sorry.
the word elder, we got elder, we got pastor, and we've got overseer. Those are the three main interchangeable words. Why are there those three words, you think? What are they each getting at a different, you said a different activity? So what are they? What is elder? What is that contribution
So I
of that
think,
word?
correct me, but I think elder would point to like the wisdom. You're right.
Maturity.
This is a mature person in the congregation. That's
Yeah.
why we call this person elder, even though, Timothy may have been 35, 40.
Yeah.
And so he's called elder, right? Shepherd means guidance, right? You guide the congregation,
Care for the flock.
Through teaching,
right?
caring,
Teaching,
Protecting.
protecting, provide the food for the sheep, and then overseer, the management
Leader.
type of situation, right?
Yeah. And I think you can see that even if you're listening, it's like, oh, I can see how as my pastor, like when I think about what pastors are, what they do, they're like these examples to the church. They're these elders.
Elders,
We look up to them. They're
Yep.
they're an example of maturity. But they also do things. They teach. They meet with people. They care for them.
Shepherd.
They shepherd them like we're sheep.
Yeah.
And then the oversight thing too is like, oh yeah, and they make decisions. They help the church make decisions. They're leading.
Right.
And you start to see that as these New Testament letters are being written, the writers are using these interchangeably depending on the situation of what the pastors were doing.
Right.
David, do you have three words with the same letter?
No,
your
but-
brain does that all the
No,
time.
but lead and feed rhyme.
There
I
you
think
go.
that
Lead and feed.
lead and feed are pretty. Lead from the word, feed from the word.
Yep.
Are pretty good for the sides of it. But if maybe you guys tell me, I'm making this up on the spot, so this could be an unhelpful illustration. But
got
But
you.
if I enter the office of husband, and then if at some point somebody called me Abby's protector or provider or friend or lover, like all those things show different aspects of a husband's relationship to his wife.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, some of what the New Testament is doing. I step into the office of husband, and husband is filled out by some of these words in a way that emphasizes different aspects of what I need to be doing.
Yes.
And one other piece of this, I think I was talking to somebody in our church about this recently, where he was asking about like, now I heard there's a bishop though, and then there's a like, is there a reverend also at Rooted? It was like we had a new to Rooted dinner, is what it was, and there was a bunch of different new people, and there was people asking questions about like, so who is the pastor, or what are elders?
Who's y'all's pastor?
Exactly, and they had an understanding of kind of like the hierarchy thing.
Yeah.
And this was by kind of getting into those words and helping describe one of the applications of this is that there are not different levels of pastors.
Right.
They're all equal in shepherding the church, equal as we would use the word a plurality. Which I know at Resurrection there's 4 currently right now.
Right. And actually there's debate or discussion of, fascinatingly, outside of Baptists, there's obviously different hierarchies. There's a bishop over the area.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And so they say, well, no, there is a hierarchy.
Right.
But then even among Bible churches, Baptist churches, there are people who say, oh, no, there's one person who's the pastor, and then the other ones are kind of assistant well, think about that word, assistant pastors. So people get debated this, but I think Ronnie, you're articulating something that is helpful from Scripture. So what did you say? Say it again.
Just that the different words, overseer, elder, pastor, shepherd, and the way that they're used, when you start to piece it all together, you see, oh, these aren't talking about like one of these guys is the bishop and he's above the guy who's the pastor, and then the pastor, or maybe the overseer is above the pastor, and then it's not describing a hierarchy; it's describing 3 different ways of looking at the same
person.
role on the same playing field, which is how we then get our understanding of a plurality of leaders.
Yeah, so can I push on that a little bit though? So in a good way, like, wait a second, people in our church are going to hear this and they're going to go, but David's the lead pastor and Natan's an assistant pastor.
Right.
What are you talking about?
Right.
Is there a hierarchy?
How would you say it, Natan?
What do you think?
So actually, a little history of the thing. So that's something that I've clarified because I've never been a lead pastor. I mean, I was a church planter for 3 years, but I've never been the lead pastor. I've always been pastor of something, right? And
Pastor of awesome. That's what I think you are. Pastor of
Pastor of
awesome.
I mean, he's doing something.
I'm doing something. So and
Pastor
I
of
always,
something, dude. That's an amazing title. Pastor of something.
And I always try to clarify, hey, if I'm a pastor, I'm a pastor of the whole congregation, right? But then in roles and activities and staff, especially right, if you remunerate
Staff, you said,
right, you can say, okay, you're a pastor, so like I can counsel and shepherd and guide anybody in our congregation, right? But in this situation right now, I'm particularly in charge. I manage children's ministries, right? And David is the lead pastor, right? Because he's the main one in charge of leading vision and mission of the church.
And I was thinking, I manage
And
to
that's
not
what-
do much well.
Pastor of something, pastor of
Chairs and lights.
of leadership.
No, past.
Yeah.
Well, no, but past. So that's the thing where I just was thinking, as people who are totally unexposed to these ideas, I'm the lead pastor. Not embarrassed about that idea. It doesn't mean that I have some kind of supernatural spiritual hierarchy. It's just the way our team has
functions and
decided
works.
to function, because leadership is a providential gift that God uses. Groups need leaders. Teams need leaders. Our team needs a leader.
Well, I sometimes think about it like you can think about
we
a basketball
We
team.
do.
A basketball team that has a point guard, different positions on the team.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, we need all 5 of these guys out here, but then they need to have different roles for the goal of the game to happen. The point guard would be like, oh yeah, that guy has a role where he's distributing the ball. It's not exactly what a lead pastor is, but it's like there's this reality of on teams there needs to be distinction of who's doing what and how decisions are made.
It's a functional thing, not a essential thing.
Should I show where that comes in the Bible?
What?
Where we see it? The lead pastor.
the preaching.
Oh yeah, if you're
preaching
going to
is
go to
worth
1 Timothy
being
5.
paid for.
No, I'm gonna go to Acts 15.
Oh boy, well I don't know what you're going to say, so let's hear this.
Oh,
this will be
there
fun.
you go.
Bring them out.
So in Acts 15, the title of that is the Council at Jerusalem, right?
Oh,
so
okay.
there's a group of pastors getting together, right? I mean, Paul and Barnabas come, but there's a group of pastors from the church in Jerusalem,
Yeah.
right? It says in verse 6, the apostles and elders, several elders, right? They met to consider this question. So I'm assuming several of the apostles or all of the apostles, Paul and Barnabas, who were traveling the world at that point, and then several elders from the mega church of Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Right? How many did they have? I don't know, 20, 30, whatever.
5,000. Yeah.
No, the pastors. How many leaders they had, right? So there's many there. And then it says, the whole assembly became silent as they listened to Barnabas and Paul telling about the signs and wonders God had done among the Gentiles through them. So they're coming to a decision. They're coming to a decision. And then verse 13 says, when they finished, James spoke up. Brothers, he said, listen to me. Simon has described to us how God first inverted, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes in verse 19. It is my judgment, therefore, that we should not make it difficult for the Gentiles who are turning to God. Instead, we should write to them, telling them. So he says, this is my judgment. And that's exactly what they did. So this idea that we have several elders or several shepherds, several pastors in a church does not necessarily mean that there's not a lead pastor.
Right.
Right? So
Keep going, sorry.
So anyway, I was going to say one among equals.
The phrase they use is first among equals.
Right.
And I think that there's a practical reality in the passage in 1 Timothy that says honor especially those who work hard at preaching and teaching. And I don't think Paul's saying to them, we know some of your guys are slouches, but they just mean some of the guys have been set apart to work hard in preaching and teaching.
Right.
And inevitably, because we're all under shepherds, by the way, that's a phrase that under shepherds, we're leading, the head of every church is Christ.
Yep.
And so the real leader in every room is Christ through his word by his spirit.
Right.
And the reason I feel comfortable being in the title of lead pastor is because I know the word leads the church, and the church has entrusted me with the main word leadership voice in preaching. That's the only reason I'm the lead pastor. It's functionally teams, but also beyond teams. You don't have to have teams. Who's preaching the word to the congregation? That's the leader.
Right.
For most of the time. And I want to share that leadership. But I think that that's functionally a very profound stewardship to have.
Yeah. Can I ask a question that's
ask it.
connected to this that I think will then lead us towards talking about the qualifications is, because we've been talking about what is a pastor, these different words, you know. Now, why did Jesus give pastors to the church? You know, why does the church need
I'm so glad you did ask
these kinds
that.
of leaders?
Well,
So Ephesians chapter 4.
Hey-yo.
So I'll read it, and then you guys want to comment on it, and I'll jump in after you. So Ephesians 4 is a passage that answers that. It says this, starting in verse 10. It says, the one who descended, so it's talking about Jesus, he came down to earth, is also the one who ascended far above all the heavens to fill all things. So it's this picture of Jesus as now reigning and ruling after his life, death, and resurrection. And then here's what he does next. And he himself gave some to be apostles, some prophets, some evangelists, then some pastors and teachers. And here's why. Equipping the saints for the work of ministry to build up the body of Christ until we all reach unity in the faith and in the knowledge of God's Son, growing into maturity with a stature measured by Christ's fullness. And so I would simply answer the question, pastors are a gift from Jesus to the church.
Yeah.
For the growth of the church. What do you guys think?
Especially you guys.
Oh, thank you.
So from that verse,
That was so sad. That's great.
I was thinking that's why I think minister is a particularly bad one to use. Like if you call your pastor the minister, because
it says equip the saints for the work of ministry.
Exactly.
Right.
So I think calling the pastor the minister is like, he's the guy that gets things done around here. Like no, the congregation does.
Right.
And the pastor equips them to do it. You are the ministers, actually.
We're outfitters, right? Yeah. Their gifts, the verses continue. Did you read? You didn't read verse 14.
I didn't keep going, no. You can.
But the whole body does its work as it becomes mature.
Right.
The pastor, how does the body become mature? Through word speakers, care for the flock, but teach the word.
Yeah.
Am I remembering? Is that a Granville Sharp?
Yes, the pastor teacher.
Yeah. So this is pastors who are teachers. That's what it's saying.
Yeah.
Not pastors and teachers.
Not pastors and teachers.
Pastors who are teachers.
Gotcha.
The Greek construction. So that's what they're doing. They're word proclaimers, and then the body.
Which goes with what you were saying about Jesus is the real pastor of the church. Ultimately, he's the chief shepherd, 1 Peter 5 says.
Yeah.
And he is leading his church through his word.
Yeah.
But it's not just his word kind of floating in the air. It's actually it being spoken by who?
Word proclaimers. As Paul in
The
Acts 20, that
pastors.
same passage, he said, you know how I taught you publicly and from house to house. My job, your job, pastors, they need to be word proclaimers. And the word, I love that metaphor of like they build a foundation of the word and frame of the word and a roof of the word. And then the body needs to all take up the ministry of the word by outfitting every room, making it beautiful in the cracks and crevices and windows and window sills of life in the church. So that everybody's bringing the body to maturity, but we are taking up the responsibility to kind of set the table for that.
Right.
Yeah.
I bounced between three metaphors. Sorry about that.
Yeah, well, the text does. The text talks about the body. It talks about the building, right?
Yeah,
It talks about these ligaments being held together. And
Yeah.
it's interesting. We were talking earlier about how you're not a pastor unless you have a specific group of people that have called you to be their pastor, right? And then on the flip side, it's like, and then also, if you are people in a church, you need pastors to equip you, to teach you, so that you grow up into maturity. So they're really just both indispensable together. And sometimes in the church, we can put way too much weight and responsibility on the pastor. Like he's the one that kind of follows God for all of us, and we're kind of he's like our mediator between God. And it's like, oh no, that's not at all what this passage is saying.
Which, by the way, if you are thinking, have I been called to be a pastor, or how do I know if a man has been called to be a pastor? We have an episode about that in the past. I don't know what episode number was it. But
And keep listening to these ones.
And it
as
was
we talk
awesome.
About the
Go to
qualifications.
the library.
Yeah, but you need that because just like we could make a whole case for why you need other church members, but the scripture tells us that these people give an account for your soul. They will turn away sound doctrine or false doctrine, remind you of sound doctrine. Hebrews 13 calls you have confidence in your leaders and submit to their authority.
Yep.
Because they keep watch over you as those who must give an account. Do this so that their work will be a joy, not a burden. That would be no benefit for you. It's a benefit for you to submit to your leaders in a way that they love to lead you.
Yeah.
And it's, that's one that I think I'll admit when I was younger, I used to kind of like wince at that one.
Mm-hmm. Obey your
And
leaders.
it felt, probably an American part of me was like, it felt like I was usurping to tell people, no, you need to submit to your elders because I was an elder.
Mm-hmm.
But now I've realized like, oh no, I can't shirk from saying that because they might have another pastor that's different than me down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm going to,
you need to set that guy up for success.
if I communicate the word, I need to communicate it faithfully. You need to obey your pastors. Now you want pastors, because the passage does say obey.
Yeah,
it's submit. The word is obey. The thing you want is pastors though who will use their authority and keep asking you, calling you to submit to what? Their preferences, where we go for lunch.
Right.
No, the word.
Right.
Right. So you need men of character.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we get to the qualifications.
So it's submitting to the word as they're teaching the word. And in Ephesians 4, there's this really beautiful picture of, and what's like the vision or the goal that they're calling you towards? It's not their plan for your life.
No, it's Jesus.
It's Jesus.
Yep.
Right.
Right.
It's Jesus.
Right. Imitate them as
And that's
they imitate Christ.
one other thing I would want to add on this too is I think there's with kind of in this part of the conversation, when you think about somebody who's like, hey, I've become a Christian or I am a Christian, I'm trying to figure out how to grow. You have to be taught. Yeah. Like you don't grow without being taught the scriptures and being taught by people that are able to work it out in your life. And so obviously the other people in the church are indispensable for that. But what the Bible's saying here is that the way that good teaching comes into the church and that Christians start to grow up is through pastors.
Yeah, and it's really fascinating. A friend of mine just said it the other day very, very bluntly, and I think he was right. The New Testament pretty much presents a fact that, well, how does a church get biblically qualified men? Other biblically qualified men raise them up.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what happened is Titus is appointed in Crete and has to raise up other biblically qualified men. It's not that they just emerge from a vacuum.
Right.
If a church doesn't have leaders, they have to go out and find some or they're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
Because that kind of maturity is produced providentially by the Lord through leadership. Those leaders, you need them, and you need. Now, I think the Lord can sustain us, so I don't want to be too intense. But leaders raise up other leaders. That's what Paul told Timothy. Commit to other men who will teach others also. And so this is a big deal. Who we call to be a pastor, and that's maybe why I'm trying to press that is like, okay, so now your church doesn't have a pastor, and you're not going to have godly leaders around if a godly man doesn't lead to raise them up. So do you just fill the office with the best available guy? Like, you're the tallest guy in the room, so I guess you're the leader. Mm-hmm. That's what Israel did with Saul.
Right.
And that went well. How's our church supposed to find the next pastor when I take a bullet? How are they supposed to do it, Natan? Wait. By listening to this podcast.
My easy answer is we are raising them right now.
Okay, good.
Right.
Good.
Like we are raising them right now, and we have a plurality of elders. So we have several pastors right now. So
good.
I'm not scared or afraid if you take a bullet this evening.
Me either, honestly. I'm going to try not to.
Yeah. And at Rooted right now, so I'm a pastor, was commissioned here from Resurrection, sent to plant Rooted. And then Alfonso, who we already talked about, he's a pastoral resident where he is in the training process, and he's going to be kind of moving into those next phases this fall with the hopes of becoming a pastor officially at Rooted sometime in the spring. But we're also really praying and starting to work with guys in our church to see is there potential in some of these guys to become part of the pastoral team someday as well.
Right.
Yes, and whenever this comes out, I'll just say there's men at Rooted that need to take seriously the fact that there's a need for godly leaders. And there's men at Resurrection. Mm-hmm. There's a serious need for more leaders. So I get that. Now, let's just say, okay, so we have a plurality of godly men. We have a plan. Does that mean that the people listening to this podcast who are members can just turn it off and say, well, the pastors will find pastors?
Nope.
No. Is that what it means?
They are going to find pastors.
Okay, so what should they be looking for? It leads us to the qualifications.
Right.
Yep.
Paul expects, I think the scripture expects, leaders to lead in the raising up of future leaders and the shaping of their formation, which I wanted to say ahead of time. Like, okay, who should own that? Leaders should own it. And then, the church should own it. Both, yes, and both and.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I mean, like Paul, when he had his encounter with Jesus, and it's like Jesus probably shared a lot of things with him. Obviously, they're very important. We don't know all of what they talked about, but as Paul was inspired to write scripture, one of the things he writes down that becomes the Bible for all of us is these qualifications.
Yeah.
So it says that the qualifications of what to look for in pastors is not a secret that pastors pass down to each other.
Right,
It's only
secret
their
knowledge,
job.
like a Gnostic
Yeah,
thing.
but it's actually the whole church. Every believer is supposed to know what to look for because they actually play a part and have a responsibility.
Right.
Yes, they all see it. So what are the passages? Let's not read both of them yet, but let's reference the main ones we think of as the passages describing pastoral qualifications.
Sorry, so Titus 1 is a great
Titus 1?
passage.
Yep.
Titus chapter 1.
Here, bring that a little closer to yourself, I bet.
Titus chapter 1. We're not going to turn there, though. We're going to look at 1 Timothy 3
Yep.
today, but those would be the main ones that list some qualifications. There's plenty of other passages though, that talk about pastors and what they're doing, like the 1 Peter 5 one is a great one as well, about the kind of men they should be.
Right. Anything other passages you think of?
Titus 1, 1 Timothy 3. Those are the main ones.
Right. Those are the ones described in, I think, both of our founding documents. The office of pastor as qualified in these two passages, right?
Yep.
So I know that's there. I would say, we're not going to get into them, but I think it's helpful to have the flip side of the coin. Read the descriptions of false teachers and keep those vividly in your mind as the counterbalance, where you go, okay, that's not a qualification passage, but if somebody were thinking, I want to do a study of this, reading 1 Timothy, 2 Timothy, and Titus, you're going to find positive descriptions and you're going to find negative descriptions. Both of them can be really helpful in robustly building out your vision of what qualification is, but probably the most specific and regularly used and central passages, 1 Timothy 3, 1-7, Titus 1, 5-9.
Yeah, and they're like portraits of a pastor. Here's these characteristics.
Sketch bio.
Yep.
Yeah, it's great. So let's read. Should we read the whole thing?
From 1 Timothy 3? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, here's a trustworthy saying. Whoever aspires to be an overseer desires a noble task. We touched on that in that episode previously. It's a good task to aspire to. Now, the overseer is to be above reproach, faithful to his wife, temperate, self-controlled, respectable, hospitable, able to teach, not given to drunkenness, not violent, but gentle, not quarrelsome, not a lover of money. He must manage his own family well and see that his children obey him, and he must do so in a manner worthy of full respect. If anyone does not know how to manage his own family, how can they take care of God's church? He must not be a recent convert, or he may become conceited and fall under the same judgment as the devil. He must also have a good reputation with outsiders, so that he will not fall into disgrace and into the devil's trap. All right, so we pause there, and some other time we can talk in the future episode about some of the ways these complement in Titus.
Yeah.
But let's start with that very first one. Now the overseer is to be above reproach.
Above reproach.
What does yours say? What does your CSB say?
It says above reproach. Some of the other words were a little bit different, but
Okay.
that's what it says here.
And Natan, what would you say it means to be above reproach?
So I think first, it's the umbrella term where all of the other ones are under, right? So the rest of the list, if you fulfill that list, you are above reproach.
Good.
So this is the most general one, right? Like not loving money is super specific, right? Above reproach is kind of like, what is this, right? So the first thing I'd say, if you do all of the other ones, you are above reproach.
Would you say too, above reproach, it's general in the sense that there could also be other things that aren't in this list that you'd be like, well, I feel like that character quality of yours is something that someone would bring reproach on you for, and it makes me question if you're above reproach, or do you think it's limited to just this list?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that as we discuss this in the future people are going to, I hope, see that as tidy as the list appears, it is a lot. It requires wisdom to apply in a specific time, place, and culture. And so I would say definitely above reproach involves more things than a specific grocery list from this passage.
Right.
Because if somebody said, well, what does it mean to be quarrelsome? Is a serial arguer on Facebook, commenter, quarrelsome? Or is it only if you argue with people in person?
Right.
You know, well,
Yeah.
am I applying the list or am I making something new? I think we just have to recognize what does it mean to be a lover of money? It starts to get very, you know, and I would say there's probably some of them that I'm inclined to think that if we should connect anything disqualifying to categories given by Scripture, whether it's
which
this
could be
passage or
outside
not.
of this passage. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes,
Just
so
other
that's-
categories of holiness.
Other
and
categories of
godliness.
yes, yeah, good. But I don't. But I don't
Right.
like. I mean, the danger of the church can fall into is creating other qualifications in a way that is unhelpful too. So,
that'd
what
be
do you think
another
about
ditch.
that?
Yeah. So that's right. So that's Titus 1, the parallel passage. Instead of saying above reproach, it says blameless. Right? And just to give a super easy example, in 1 Timothy 3, it doesn't say, one of the qualifications is not someone who prays.
Yeah.
Not praise, Prays,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you say, okay, listen, praying is now one of the qualifications for pastors in this passage. So I just don't pray.
Yeah, but
Right.
you can't disqualify me.
And that, well, there's you're not blameless, right? At that
Good,
point, you're
good,
not
good,
above
good.
reproach because
Yeah.
I have one reproach for you. You just don't pray. And then from the rest of the Bible, you could explain. Listen,
Yeah.
all Christians are supposed to pray. So
Yeah.
you just gotta, you know.
I feel like reproach is not a word we use that often. How would you guys translate that for
You wanna go
our
first?
language
I was
today?
gonna come back to blameless. But
Yeah.
go ahead.
Blameless, that's a helpful modifier on it.
Yeah, I think that it's above, resistant to accusation,
Accusation was a word I was thinking too.
or durable against dishonor.
Like somebody that you would look at me and like, is this a guy that people tend to look at and go like, I don't know about that guy. Like I heard this or think this, or I've interacted with him. Like there can even just be a little bit of a sense of, it's like I feel like it's like a composite of your character kind of term.
Right.
That is, it's almost a little bit hard to totally pin down because it could be pointing to a couple of things, but it's like, yeah, is this a guy that it'd be pretty hard to accuse him of being ungodly based on what you know
Hard
about
to accuse is a great loose definition. I mean, I think it's going to be hard to pin down, Ronnie, because you are right. Well, what Natan said, if you read above reproach and there's a footnote and you say, well, what does that mean?
Yep.
It says, well, read further. Right? It's
Yeah.
like,
Yep.
that's how you define above reproach.
Exactly.
But I think that hard to accuse, or, things just don't seem to, well, this is going to sound weird, don't seem to stick to him is not, oh, wow, he's found his way to prove his innocence multiple times or something.
Right.
But that it's like people are not suspect of him. They're suspect of the accusation.
Yep.
Right? They go, wait a second, that's not who I know. I know a
Right.
guy that makes no sense.
And it's interesting. The well thought of by outsiders
Yeah.
one is one that is more directed towards people that are outside of the church. Seem to think he's above reproach as well.
Right.
Whereas
Right.
above reproach here, it's like
A reputation.
It's connected to how do people tend to see you, which isn't everything, right? And people can have wrong views and all that kind of a thing. But there's just this general sense where the first thing he says is above reproach.
And you just don't get there without a track record of over time having character. That's what the
Yeah.
Scripture wants.
Yep.
Is not, are they? You're not going to see is impressive. That's not the same as above reproach when in the passage, right?
Yeah.
So I think there could be some relation to that, like where Titus tells the older men he wants them to be honorable, or he wants them to essentially raise the aspirations of the younger men. I don't think being impressive is necessarily the wrong. We don't need that, but in an age where showmanship and like they can get up and they can give a great speech, they can be eloquent, they whatever. Above reproach is about the kind of man.
Yeah.
That
It's about character.
Character.
It's about character.
What
It's
were you
about.
gonna say?
Go ahead and time.
Yeah, and connected to Christian characteristics described in the Bible, and connected to this list,
Yes.
right? Because I grew up in a context where I heard the sentence, "Mature Christians don't wear beards." You don't grow a beard,
Oh yeah.
right? So then someone watches this. Someone
Yeah.
believes that watches this podcast like there's 3 pastors with beards that they're not
Yeah.
above reproach.
Right.
I have something to blame them for. They have a beard. It's like,
Right.
well, listen, I'm not taking it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it needs to be now, but that's an interesting. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Please don't let anybody listen to this and misunderstand what I'm about to say. An unbiblical accusation does not disqualify someone because you're saying, well, they're not above reproach anymore because people are ticked at them for
Well, yeah. If there's you could be criticized still.
Right,
for the
you're gonna
wrong.
know.
You can be
Yeah.
criticized, and
You
will.
are going to be
Yeah,
criticized.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that's the thing.
You are going to be criticized,
Yep.
but it should take on the flavor of like a 1 Peter 2, that though the pagans accuse you and slander you as evildoers, you live such good lives among them. That's kind of the general
Yeah.
Christian stickiness. But then I would say this is culturally loaded.
Okay.
And that's where I would say to be above reproach, I would love for you to challenge me on this, guys. I think that to be above reproach in this time, place, and context inherently has flavor, at least, if not distinction, from what it will look like to be above reproach in a different time, place, and culture. There are things
Yeah.
that, for instance, there were times, there were places where there are cultural ways that a man could be generally regarded as lazy and undisciplined, that now in our culture may be okay.
Right.
But in a different time and place, I think it would be like, well, dude, you need to be above reproach. The fact that everybody thinks you're a slob is a big deal. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I don't want to throw out the idea that a beard couldn't be something somebody raises. Because
in some moment,
in some culture, now we have to
sometimes-
guard against what happens.
For it to be culturally located means it's related to the people that you're serving and that you're
Right.
around, and some of the values that they've made.
Right.
You know?
So I try to work on my weight and be disciplined. Okay. But and I think that I'm comfortable talking about this with everybody. Like you put me in a different time in history, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody would have a right to say, hey, you, there's no way you're that heavy without being gluttonous. And I don't know what it is about our food now, but I try to be careful, and I'm trying to but there were people 200 years ago that were like, wow,
Or
is
maybe
this a
you
king
must,
that
you
showed
must
up?
be, you must be a thief. You're stealing food from people.
Yeah, or you're a king of something like.
No, very simple. So
Does that make sense?
A pastor in
Yeah.
Spain,
Yeah.
with the Spain schedule of a normal day,
Yeah.
it's probably gonna, like a Spanish regular pastor, is probably gonna go to bed at 12 a.m. or 1 a.m. and wake up at 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Here in the States, waking up at 8 or 9 is kind of like, what are you doing?
Preach, bro. Preach.
Right? So
what are you doing?
Here in the States, people wake up at 6, 7, 7:30, right? Because you start work
Earlier.
around that time, right?
And,
Yeah.
And all of the jobs I had in Spain, they started after 10. So you could look at someone in Spain and say, hey, you're lazy because you're waking up at 9. Like, well, I'm sleeping the same 8 hours that you are.
Right.
Right.
So this word above reproach comes at the beginning as the first one, because in some ways it's like it's an intro into what he's going to get into with the other ones, and it's like this general composite term. Why does he say this though? Do you guys think, like, why above reproach? Why does a pastor need to be above reproach?
Well,
Period.
Go ahead, Natan.
No, you go ahead.
I mean, I think it's just because leadership is a very important gift from the Lord for people.
Yeah.
It does a lot of good for people. So if you read Proverbs, any kind of leader has, and if you read the Old Testament, any kind of leader has an outsized influence in the life of God's people, and he cares about his people.
Yeah.
And so if you say, well, I'm going to give this person an opportunity to have an impact If the king's a fool, everyone suffers.
Yeah.
If the king is wise, everyone's blessed. Now, a pastor's not a king, but the principle of leadership, I think God cares that his people have good leaders.
Right, because he loves his people.
Yeah, he loves
and
his
wouldn't you
people.
also say, why doesn't he start with preaching? Or why doesn't he talk about he must be an excellent manager at first? Why does he start with above reproach?
You want to go ahead, Nathan?
No, go ahead.
I mean, I guess I
I
just
have
think
something, but I'll say it.
I guess I just think that because the mouth speaks what the heart is full of over time, that kind of thing, right? You say ministry comes from the overflow. And so the first thing the qualification passages speak to is the overflow, not the activity. Or
Character.
the reservoir. Yes,
Yeah,
the character.
yeah.
So you don't say, well, here's what I want coming out of your mouth. It says, here's what I want the heart to look like.
Yep, and I just think when I first was being discipled and starting to learn what the church was and how pastors worked and everything, it's always stuck with me that one of our pastors just pointed out how the list is all and mostly about character.
Yeah.
There's obviously skill and competency that gets played out and how you navigate relationships, in which a lot of these are a part of that. But it really emphasizes a man's character first and foremost.
Right. And Gene, that book Gene Getz, our friend references it, mentioned this week. But I know Tim Baker, he listens to this and he loves that book. It's a measure of a man. He walks through this for every male man that's a Christian. Hey, you should work on your character in light of this passage. So what were you going to say though?
We are under shepherds.
Yeah.
We are representing the good shepherd.
Yeah.
So that it's big, and that representation is not first and foremost about teaching.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, even just the way it works, how David pointed out, is like what's in your heart is what's gonna flow out of your mouth, and even your hands and your actions. It's who this man is and his character is gonna significantly affect what he does, how he leads, how he interacts, how he teaches.
And I would say that also, one thing I don't want to give a misunderstanding. You didn't pose it in a bad question, but I would say this. Hey, this is written in a context where the gospel has preceded it. So it's not that somebody says, well, let's make sure this guy's a good heart, and then we'll get to the gospel. It's a gospel-formed people. Paul knows that the deposit of the gospel Timothy's been raised in the gospel. People have heard the gospel. So the word clearly precedes the man's heart being good. But then he doesn't, when he turns to leadership, say, well, let's get to your sermon first. He gets to his heart.
Yep.
So maybe that didn't make sense, the qualification I'm making. But now what's the first place he turns under above reproach? Because I love this one.
A husband of one wife is what how mine says it.
And I think that's actually closer to the original Greek, right? In terms of construction.
One woman, men. It's the literal thing.
One woman,
Husband
man.
of one wife. My translation says faithful to his wife. And I would say, I think, when I said closer to the Greek, I think that is the pursuit of the text is somebody who has a reputation of being having his love and allegiance and commitment to one woman.
Yeah.
Fair?
Yep.
Now wait a second.
Wait a second.
Does that mean somebody has to be married to be an elder or pastor?
No, it doesn't say that they can't here. I think the norm would be that a man would be married.
Okay.
So he's speaking to the norm.
Okay.
And
So this is good.
he's speaking to the norm, and he's speaking to if that is the case for you, that you're married, which is going to be the norm, then this is going to be one of the first and most important arenas where your character is going to play out to prove whether or not you would be a good fit for leading the church.
Right.
Do you have any disagreement or qualification or addition?
No, I just I mean, I was gonna say, it ties to having your natural desires under check, control, right?
Yeah, which he gets into next.
So
Yep.
God provided marriage for that, or the gift of celibacy, which apparently
Yeah.
Paul had.
Yeah, Paul,
Right.
who writes this, is not married.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
it does seem that there are leaders in the church who were single and possessing that calling in faithfulness, and so it's that's where we have to discuss, because we're going to discuss these qualification passages.
Yep.
is this a very specific bullet point that says a one-woman man means that if you have not been married, you cannot be qualified? You'd say no.
Mhm.
You'd say no, you can be qualified, right?
Right.
I agree. I got to admit, I would be much slower to qualify you.
Mhm.
Because, man, nothing seems to get through the smoke and mirrors like somebody living with your sin. You know, like a spouse, right?
Yeah, or just,
Well,
and
that's-
just even why, if marriage is going to be the norm, and if it's talked about as a good gift, the question would be why aren't you married yet?
Right.
And there's plenty of good reasons why somebody wouldn't be,
Exactly.
but
Yeah.
it'd be worth talking about.
Yeah, why haven't you taken up the creation mandate?
Mhm.
And they better answer with the Great Commission. Like if they're going, well, because I need to be single for this missionary endeavor, fine. But otherwise, the creation mandate is our calling:
Yeah.
be fruitful and multiply.
Right. So from Genesis 1 and Genesis 2,
Yeah.
we see that the norm, what you said, the norm for an adult, mature human is that they will be married.
Mm-hmm.
That's the norm.
Mhm.
If you're not following that norm, you gotta tell me why. You gotta give me a good reason.
Right.
Which is the Great Commission, gift of celibacy.
Mhm.
I don't have those desires. I have a miraculous kind of gift from the Spirit to not fall into those desires, and I'm gonna use that ability to fulfill the Great Commission in a
For
great
service.
for service. Yeah, I'm like, all right, sure, that makes sense. Now if it says, hey, no, I'm working on it. I'm trying to find a woman. I'm like, sure. But if it's a guy that is, dating a different girl every weekend, I will be with you.
Yeah.
Not being married doesn't disqualify you, but why don't you figure this one out before we continue?
And it just, I think practically it's very helpful to have somebody so close. So even if I would be wanting to talk to roommates but now let's say, okay, if somebody on the next, a widower, are they qualified? I presume you'd say the same thing, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
If they've been faithful, right? A faithful widower.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what if a widower gets remarried? And now they're no longer only have been married to one person faithfully. Are they still qualified?
Right.
Yes, because it'd be a biblically legitimate remarriage.
Right.
So they don't have two wives, they have one.
They have one.
They're not a two women.
Yeah,
man.
they're not a two-woman man. Yeah.
So the reputation of a one-woman man is not a singular marriage necessarily, you're saying.
Right.
It's a reputation of faithfulness within the marriage God's entrusted to you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. So no, I'm pressing on this because I think people will hear
And I
this
think-
and they'll say, wait,
Yep.
what about this stuff?
And I think too, looking at the qualifications not as like, here's the hoops that I got to jump through,
Right.
or like here's the things that I have to have accomplished for some reason. It's actually like, are you the kind of man who, if you have a wife, is a one-woman man? Or if you don't have a wife, are you the kind of man that would be a one-woman man if you had one?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Exactly.
Like, are you? That's why even like your translation of faithful. Like, are you a man of integrity? A man who I'll talk to guys that are considering marriage right now, and one of the things I'll say, because a lot of people will say, "Man, I don't feel ready." You're like, "I don't know how I would be ready," and that's true. You could not be ready, but when you get married, that's the beginning of now a journey with your wife where you're gonna grow a ton. And so I'll always tell people like, you being ready is meaning like you have showed that you're the kind of person that can keep this commitment.
Yeah.
You're the kind of person, you're on a trajectory of character and you have a track record of keeping other commitments. And you've kind of proven to the people around you that I'm the kind of man that is going to be able to be a one-woman man.
Right.
Right. And there's something that this qualification is getting at of like, as it's describing the kind of man that can lead God's church.
Right. And I'm kind of pressing this because I think that when it comes down to use of authority, like we're trusting someone with authority in the church.
Mm-hmm.
And if you say the job description, is it a benchmark that you have to check off in terms of a specific line? Do they have blue eyes or brown eyes?
Right.
All the brown-eyed guys are out.
Right.
No offense. All right. Well, that's different than what I think the scripture is actually speaking to a principle that needs to have real teeth, though.
Right.
And the scary thing that can happen in churches is when you approach it as I think the scripture is writing, a principle, then there can be it's easy to erode the teeth on the principle. So somebody says, well, yeah, of course, it doesn't mean one woman man because a guy who buried his wife and got remarried, he's qualified. It doesn't mean one woman ever only. But then we start to talk about, very flagrant situations in celebrity pastors who, well, yeah, they divorced this woman but they've got a new wife.
Only one.
This
They
year.
are faithful to that one.
And it's,
Right.
hey, they're faithful to this one. It's been a great first year of marriage in their 27th year of ministry. And you're like, well, hey, in our cultural context, we need to recognize that that's a place where somebody should say, hey, when did they establish a reputation of faithful to one woman and have the teeth, right?
Right.
Hey, we've seen that. We've probably all seen that, right? So now, the divorce and remarriage thing is part of the discussion here that we probably just have to start to wade into, right? Does a divorce automatically, Natan, does it divorce automatically disqualify someone in your interpretation and opinion?
I'm going to take the easy side of that question and let you guys go to battle with the rest. I'd say if it happens before conversion to Christianity, I'd say we're fine.
Okay.
I normally tend, it's like all of the whole list above reproach, all of these things. Because what happens with a person that as an unsaved man, was not above reproach, right? And he wasn't, he's in his fourth marriage or whatever, right? I tend to say, well, I don't think we can count the things before conversion unless there's a whole bunch of consequences still chasing him.
Well, I'm actually glad you
Right.
said that because I think I might disagree with you a little bit.
Like if he's in jail for 30 years, it's like, well, he's gonna start a church in jail. He's gonna be the pastor of the inmates. I say, well,
Yeah.
you know what? If you're gonna be
Yeah.
in there,
Do you
know,
have anything you want to qualify on that?
Well, that's your answer. That's where you leave it.
well, that's the easy part of the.
I'm
of
not
the
sure.
story.
I'm not sure
Yeah, you can qualify
that I
first.
like the pre-conversion level that you set it at, because Proverbs 5 says that the man who finds another person's wife will never remove his stain.
Okay.
And this above reproach is, to me, like, it doesn't mean that Jesus can't forgive them, doesn't mean that they won't be in heaven, doesn't mean any of those gospel implications. But an adulterer has in scripture, there are passages that say they have a stain, and this passage says they must be above stain.
Right.
They must be above reproach.
Correct.
So I feel a tension that I don't think makes the conclusion, because here's the thing. What I asked was divorce automatically disqualifying.
Right.
And you said things that happen pre-conversion are fine. And I think many of them. But I feel like, I'm not sure I want to say carte blanche. And that's okay if you feel
No,
differently.
I'm not even saying that. I'm not saying carte blanche because I'd say like if plenty of the consequences follow you.
Right. Like if you
You
said,
know?
say, hey, this was a serious sex offender pre-conversion.
Right.
Yeah, that stain's not going away probably.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think,
Where my
Ron?
mind is going is I think it depends on the nature of the divorce and his role in it.
Yeah.
Because again, these qualifications are not like, hey, you gotta check off these boxes. It's trying to describe the kind of person that you are and the kind of character that you have.
Right.
And I could see a man who has the kind of character that is worthy of following, that has divorce in his background.
Yeah.
And his role in the divorce, as much as it was up to him, was above reproach. I could see that happening. Yeah, I'll leave it
Well,
at that.
I'll give you a 1 Corinthians 7
Great.
clear example. Okay, and this probably, I don't know if here in the States, but here in Latin America it happens. It could happen all the time. All right, Catholic couple.
Yeah.
They get married in the Catholic Church, like real, true Catholics. Okay, they go to mass every Sunday. Pray to the Virgin Mary. All of those things. All right. Okay. Man gets saved, becomes a Christian.
Boom.
He doesn't want to go to a Catholic church anymore.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to pray to Mary anymore.
Right.
He doesn't want to go to mass. He's not going to baptize his kids, right?
He's in
they
trouble
don't,
then.
They don't have kids, this couple, but maybe a wife is pregnant. Guy doesn't want to baptize the kid in the Catholic church.
Mm-hmm.
Wife says, no, I married a good Catholic man. You are not that anymore.
I want an annulment or
I want a divorce
yeah.
because I married a Catholic man and I am going to be married to a Catholic man. So she divorces him. That's pretty much what 1 Corinthians 7 is talking about, right? He after marriage, he became a Christian, and now the other spouse, it's not in for that because something has changed. So she divorces him.
Yeah.
I would say that is a very legitimate divorce.
Yes, yeah. So that's actually all I was
He
pressing on.
doesn't push for divorce. The wife pursues divorce. He agrees. Okay, yeah, I'm not Catholic anymore. Sure. So that's a very legitimate divorce. I think in my opinion, he is free to get married again, and then I'd say he still has the qualifications.
1 Corinthians 7 says that he, in that case, abandonment by an unbeliever, then he's not bound. Now, I want to say qualification because this is so fun because to me, this is exactly what we always dreamed the podcast would be in the life of the church. Not the official stance of the church. I would tell you right now, listeners, there are elders in our church. There are members in our church. My dear loved one, my grandfather who passed away, very strongly believed that divorce was always a concession to a broken world and that remarriage was not an option.
Right.
And he held that conviction from passages. I think he was incorrect. And I believe that the Bible does grant places where divorce is a sad reality, but a biblically warranted permission that makes room for remarriage. That is not everyone's universal conviction, and we'll have our own episode on that. I think it would really be good.
John MacArthur.
Did he think of no remarriage?
No,
Piper. I think you're thinking of Piper.
No, I think John MacArthur said that if you get in divorce anyway, you're disqualified forever.
Okay, so this is probably good for us to say, like, this is where the discernment of what this podcast is supposed to do is kind of get people talking like, oh yeah, we have to wrestle with Scripture.
Right.
And I think, yes, pre-conversion, a divorce that was not precipitated by the man who's trying to be a pastor being the egregious sinner in some kind of broken thing, I generally think, okay, I agree with you. Now, that doesn't mean... honestly, I would be really, really hesitant if he hasn't been remarried and married for a long time faithfully. If this guy's like single and the only thing people know about him is that he used to have a wife, that doesn't.
Why would that give you pause?
That doesn't seem to be above reproach. All that people would be thinking is like, well, at least there was one place. Somebody's got a big accusation against him, right? Whereas if he's remarried and faithfully walking, then there's this place where somebody goes, oh yeah, his wife will be the first one to vote for him as an elder.
Yeah, that
to me is a big. Now that's just practically the way I'd apply it. I don't think.
What do you think about this?
To,
the other piece I was thinking with it too is it's not like this qualification and even being a pastor in general isn't like it's not about us. It's not about us getting to be pastors in that sense. It's
It's
about the church, and it's like who would be a good fit right now to serve these people.
Yes,
and there could be some scenarios where a man is actually like not technically disqualified by that, but it's just because of what's going on with the aftermath of the divorce or whatever. It just isn't the right timing, isn't the right place with the right people for him to be a pastor there.
Yes, and that is such an important thing you just said is too much of this has snuck into the church where people are like, but this guy, he wants to follow, his Disney princess heart says he wants to be a pastor. You're not going to let him? And that's not what leadership is about.
No.
It's about who's going to sacrifice to serve for the body. And if you were told, any one of us, I hope, were told, listen, it's very unclear how you serving right now helps the body. I know you all enough to know that we'd get out of the way of the body.
I could even see you being a godly man who's qualified and going like, okay, now I think technically I am qualified by this, but because this isn't about me, I'll bow out. And like, if I'm not a good fit for this church right now, then...
I think it comes back to the idea of the minister, because plenty of churches do not have a place for members serving in
Yeah, that's good, Tom.
amazing capacities, right? So this person, you know, the divorced guy has a heart for God and he wants to serve and he wants to love the congregation. He's like, I probably should be a pastor. It's like, I mean, let's talk about it. But listen, there's a million things that great things that you can do in the congregation to serve the congregation and love the congregation and grow the church and lead the church in many ways that you don't need to be a pastor.
So important.
Yep.
That's so important to say. Like, hey, this is and in some ways you feel like this is the kind of thing where you step down to lift up. That's a perspective change rather than step up to lead. Leaders are servants in the church. And if somebody just says, hey, man, this is really hard because the church alone is going to be divided over this. People have real convictions over this. So we're going to have to, it'll be so fun to have a divorce and remarriage podcast.
Yeah.
But the idea of I know since polyamory and polygamy is becoming more culturally acceptable, God forbid, I know it means that somebody with 2 wives is not qualified.
Well, I think that's...
You disagree?
No.
I was like, what?
No.
Well.
This passage was written
wants 2
almost
wives,
2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And many times we jump into these details,
Yeah.
very small details, which is good. We should do, right?
Yeah.
But I think the in your face meaning of the passage
One wife.
is like, hey, Timothy, when you go to Corinth, if you find a guy that is going to the temple to have sex with the prostitutes, prophetesses over there, not that guy. Right? Like very, very simple, right?
Yeah.
Or if you find a rich guy that has 4 or 5 female slaves,
Concubines.
right? And he's having, relationship with those, not that guy.
Or you find a dynamic teacher who has abandoned his wife.
Right.
It's not a one-woman man.
Right.
Like, a guy who says, I'm not caring for my wife. Put him to death.
She's not too glamorous. She's
Sorry,
not glamorous enough.
That's not what the passage says.
So
but
on
that's
that
my
note,
heart.
what if we start moving towards like, okay, so you're listening to this. Let's
say positively.
Well, let's say you're a young guy who's kind of like, okay, I want to know what it means to be a pastor. I've maybe even wondered that for myself, just from these first 2, above reproach and then one woman man. What's just some practical advice for you?
Practical things.
Yeah.
And talking about 2025, it's how it's different. If you're like 23, 27, I'm like, first thing that comes to mind is your Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever history is gonna come and bite you in the
bottom
booty.
Yeah. There's no one-woman man who's looking at porn.
Right.
Right? Now you can fall
No,
in.
I say even above reproach. The way you argue, the way you speak, the way you talk, the way you comment.
It's amplifying your opportunity to be seen by others as either above reproach or
starting from
not.
that.
Oh, yeah, above reproach too. But sorry, I went straight to one-woman man. But the porn epidemic has to just come up as like, guys, this is exactly why I think the scripture was so principial. Is like, if it was just married to one person, that porn person is fine.
Right.
But a one-woman man is not a scrolling man.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, I've even put it together like this. If you're a young guy aspiring maybe to ministry, it's like, hey, this passage says the first thing that you need to start focusing on is your character.
Yeah.
Like that character is what's most important. And you should be like connected to that. You should be aspiring to find a wife and become the kind of man that can get married.
Right.
Right. And it's like that. But those first 2 priorities first before you jump to the next.
And that
thing.
should
And
be
how does somebody go ahead?
that should be a priority.
And
finding a wife, and you, young guy, need to use all of the creative powers that God has given you. Okay, we are creative creatures, right? Well, you need to use all of the creativity that you can to find one. Because I think some guys are thinking now, well, it's very difficult, where do you find a wife? Like, listen, figure it out.
Right.
I don't know. Like, I got married in 2008. It was a different world.
Right. But our cultures react with passivity for men. It likes men who have given in to the sin of passivity.
Mm-hmm.
And the sin of aggression and the sin of passivity commonly erode biblical masculinity. But the sin of passivity is, our culture likes that. And they like men who won't get in the way of other people, who won't go out in the world and go get something. And I think there's too many young men pretending like a woman needs to walk up and say, would you marry me? And it's like, no, let's get back to, it's a cultural signifier. I understand in Western culture, but the reality is you need to get on one knee and you need to go propose.
It should be a pursuit.
That's why I say, okay, number one, open your eyes big and wide in your local church.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What's there? You say, okay, there's no one. It's a small local church where it's 15 old people and me. All right.
Any widows?
Put in your calendar that you're going to visit a sister church in your area in their evening services.
Bro, we need to bring back Sunday night services just for that. Dude, I want a Sunday night service. I'll just put it on the podcast.
Listen,
I want a Sunday night service.
I'm very serious. Put in your calendar that for a season, 6 months a year, you're going to visit a bigger church, large church in your area in the evening services. You're going to continue committed to your church, and then you're going to do that. Okay. No, that didn't work. All right. Circle in your calendar 3 Christian conference that will happen next year. Okay.
This is very practical.
And go, very, very
go
practical.
CrossCon.
Go have a coffee 3 times a week in the same coffee place. And open your eyes over there. Join a Christian book club.
All right, I get it. I get it. But that's, a ton of my friends, and you, by God's grace, were provided for differently. But you and I, and almost everybody I know, this is one of the reasons why don't sleep on Bible college. You meet other people in the same life stage. Don't sleep on InterVarsity. Don't sleep on these things where it's like, I need to find Christians who are looking to start their life this way. But then it's the character thing. Let's just not say the wife thing. And we need to get done soon. The character thing. Don't take any sin small. Don't take any sin small. Just pull weeds with joy all the time. Lean in to every friction where you find out that someone is feeling sinned against by you, has challenging words for you. Because I think we do probably have to have a whole episode or discussion about how do you form character.
Yeah.
But I mean, realistically, I just think the Spirit of God is putting people in your life to help you form character if you're willing to listen to all the friction they're bringing. And one thing you do is listen to them. The other thing is be aware of what you're keeping from everyone else. What do you keep completely private? Because an above reproach man lives in the world as God knows him to be. If you and God are on the same terms, like and Ronnie knows me as God knows me. I mean, well, God knows me a lot better. Yeah. But you get it. Like I'm not hiding anything from Ronnie, and it's impossible to hide anything from God. I think you'll form character. Yep. But if you get into like hiding things, the things that kill your character will grow.
The last thing I would say too is it's character. It's you and the Lord. It's all of that, and we'll get into how that connects to these other qualifications. But it's also this passage is assuming that the way that you are known as above reproach is because people know you. Yeah. Like there's not just random people, but people in your church that are looking to see who should be the elders, who should be the teachers, who should be the pastors, right? And so throw yourself into relationships in your church. That's where character gets played out. That's where character gets sharpened. That's where character gets revealed. And I think if you are somebody that is wondering about, should I be a pastor? You need to be on your knees, alone with God in your Bible, but you also need to be just out there with the people in your church, serving them, loving them, getting to know them, because that is what all of these are they're relationally connected words that we're going to be getting into.
Yeah, that they're going to be relationally refined, and the things that threaten it will be relationally exposed. Right? Yep. And that's where we've come up to the time that's usually good for us to land the plane. We're going to keep talking in future episodes about the qualification passages, and we've raised topics like divorce and remarriage and some of these other things that we're going to come back to. And I hope that you feel excited about this. Now, anybody that's listening, if you aspire, I hope you're thinking, okay, Holy Spirit, help me to be or pursue being above reproach. If you're not aspiring, I hope you know why. maybe a woman in the church or somebody younger who's just like, well, right now I just need to work on things. We would love to hear from you on who you think is above reproach. Just tell us. I mean, we're pastors in your churches, right?
Yeah.
So tell us, if you see a guy and you're like, man, when you were talking about that reminded me of this person. Please, we need to raise up leaders. And it's always helpful to hear what people think about who meets this passage in their mind. All right?
Right.
Anything else?
That's all.
All right. Rock on, church. Love you.